Thank you for your presentation, Monsignor. So the British social anthropologists articulated a theory, kind of a social evolutionary theory, that the end of humanity was really upper class English society, that the stages of human evolution went through a savage phase, a barbarian phase, into high civilization. So now we know that it wasn't London at the turn of the century, but it was Davos in the 21st century. This is the purpose of human life. We're evolving towards the Davos man orientation towards the world. Ana Marta,
Yes.
profesores, Stefano, Ana Marta, por favor.
So I want to clarify this. The Davos, the title of the meeting was Reset. That is to say, we start by the beginning, nothing more, no tradition, nothing, no values, nothing. That we have a new man, a new woman, and that could be made by artificial instruments. So this is the program.
Borrón y cuenta nueva.
Borrón y cuenta.
Well, thank you for your presentation, which I think it's important to read it fairly, because what I would like to underline from your presentation is the fact that in the mind of ordinary people, it's true, I think, that the relativization of absolute truths goes hand in hand with the relativization of factual truths. Because in the end, it's a unity. So you say that if we don't, speak about God, in a way, we are also weakening the presence of truth in other realms of life. No? So in a way, you are saying that the relativization even of scientific truths cannot be entirely disconnected from the relativization of metaphysical and also religious truths. This is I have understood it well, no? More or less.
Are different, but
of course, yes. No? But yes, so it's interesting because on the other hand, well, we also see that in the public opinion, sometimes, religion has nothing to do with science. It's almost as if it were beyond truth and falsehood. It's just a private matter. No? So, yeah. Well, this connection between truth in religion, philosophy, ethics, and truth in science. What do you think? It's the key in order to reconnect these different realms of truth, because those are different realms. No? So that's the...
Well, it's a very important question. I say the question of, the proof that the Pope like the truth that comes from sciences, and not only for humanistic or for philosophical, for ethical visions, and also for religious vision, is that we have an academy for 400 years. The Pope supports this academy. This is the most clear manifestation of that they believe in this. And the Pope say that they believe in the academy and pay for the academy, that is the concrete thing, because there are some truths that come from science that we don't have in philosophy, and not have in ethics, and not have in religion. But what, for this, I think, for the beginning, the Pope speak about the dialogue. But what is a more important thing to do this correct dialogue? What are the conditions of the dialogue? The condition of the dialogue is that each discipline way in his location, we can say, in his field. For example, I want to put you an example. Many times in the academy, we speak about creation. And if you explain the creation like Thomas Aquinas, that is the path between the nothing to the being, they say, okay, this is possible. We don't say nothing. We can find the origin in the sense, the nothing, of course. It's not a scientific field to explain this. And they explain the things that they see. So if you put the things in the good sense, we can have a dialogue and complementation and some sort of reconciliation of sciences and humanistic and theological questions. For example, we have the question next week's, the question of the religion in the early human being, and Lucy. It's impossible to resolve this because we have only signs, we have stones, but we have stones that come from the funerary, for rituals from the funerary. So we need the philosopher to say, today, we use this in a religious context. So we need to put the observation that the science and the self-reflection and consider the past in relation with to the self-reflection. So we need to respect the different fields, and we can, in this sense, and we try to do this also today.
Thank you so much, Stefano.
Thank you.
Presidente.
Thank you, Marcelo, for your precious paper. In a very recently published book, the famous or well-known American scholar Cass Sunstein, he belongs to the juridical law, but he's very nowadays very well famous. He defends the following thesis: that according to utilitarianism, there is no particular reason to object to lies or falsehoods. He writes, because even though I say something which is untrue, provided that the consequences stemming from that are on utilitarian ground positive, that is okay. Now, this is, it seems to me, the point which very seldom is touched upon, because nowadays we live under the hegemony of utilitarianism, not only in economics, which is my field of inquiry, but also in sociology, even though people do not realize that, because utilitarianism is a very strange animal. As you know, he was born in Italy, in Milan. People believe that was Jeremy Bentham, but Jeremy Bentham wrote 40 years after, and he mentioned the Italian scholar, the one who was against, as you know. But the point is that utilitarianism defends falsehoods on the grounds of a positive consequence. And positive consequence in economic terms, you understand what does it mean. So even though I say, for instance, marketing, propaganda is full of lies, but that is admitted because the important point is to sell the goods, the commodities that firms have produced. Isn't it the case? Do you believe to what you observe in the various markets? Everybody knows that there are lies. Still, the defense is so that is why it seems to me that the paper by Marcelo, it's important, because compels us to take a decision. On the ontological grounds, for instance, Kant would object to that. Kantism is just the opposite to the utilitarian. But we have a third value, which is virtue ethics. Virtue ethics, Aristotle, Thomas, etc. And it seems to me that before discussing about the problem, we have to go to the roots, Because unless we decide what is the ethical accounts to which we subscribe, there is no way of dialogue. Everybody's right. Because I can say I am utilitarian, and so I justify the lies. I am a deontological person. I say no. You know the story of Kant when he says, even though the world collapses, provided that the truth is so, etc. So I think that the paper of Marcelo compels us to take position on that. Otherwise, we are missing simply the point. Now, Sarsten is, I like him because he was honest. He said right from the beginning, I am a utilitarian. Very few scholars take such a courage. And stating that, of course, he is open to objection of one type or the other. So
No, I agree that could be utilitarian for some times, but in the end of the day, it's a disaster. So, yeah, it's clear. To lie for some president could be very utilitarian to a right to be again president. But in the end of the day, when we have the balance, we say this is disaster. Look the things that we have today. I am a little concerned about the global situation. If you have a tour of Horizon today, so there are many people to have no peace, as you say. The end of this is to have peace. But what peace we have today? We have many hate in the country of love to the other. So it's a very delicate situation, I think. Also for these theories. So
thank you. Thank you so much, Stefano. Sarsten's earlier book was equally ironic in that the main claim is if you are for life, you have to be in favor of the death penalty. His book before this. Justin.
Great, thank you, Monsignor. So with Lee's presentation, you asked a question about religion and its influence on these issues. And you were asking about atheism in particular, which on sociological grounds raises an interesting question, I think, that we do all need to consider about the influence of religion. But in my country, in the US, public opinion survey data show that post-truth sensibilities and moral relativism are perhaps strongest among some of the religious blocs in our country, especially evangelicals, who make up about 30% of our country. And they've been fed perhaps a much stronger political ideology that becomes part of their religious identity as well. And they've been, deceived and misled, but invoke God, invoke poor theology as a tool for advancing post-truth, and are captured by this dictatorship of relativism, as you mentioned in your paper. And so my question, I guess, is more sociological than philosophical. But in your opinion, is the alignment of religion and post-truth, at least in the US context, because of a lack of good philosophical or theological training? And, or, to put it differently, how can religion help combat the tyranny of post-truth? Is it through better training in the classics, through Aristotle?
It's a very good question. Pope John Paul II wrote a very interesting, for me, the more interesting encyclical about reason and faith. Really, the name was Faith and Reason. So religion is very important, but we need also to put together faith, to put together reason, and the reason of philosophy, moral reason, and also scientific reason. And look, in the documents of the Pope, they use all these different forms. For example, in the discussion of what is the moment of the death, what is death, you use the dates of the sciences. In the document of Laudato Si of Pope Francis, they use the document that he know by the academy, because he put the responsibility that we have with the creation, with the planet, because the Bible, we are image of God, etc., etc. But to describe the situation of the planet, use the date of the science. So the problem of many religions, for example, in your country, they are the creationists that don't want to accept it, any other theory of the science, only the theory that they have the science in the moment that they write these books. But this is again to the reason. So we need to put faith and reason together.
Thank you so much, Monsignor. Ricardo.
Yes, Your Excellency, thank you very much. Actually, my question is more or less the same as Justin has, but I cannot resist to give a reference that might be helpful for the seminar. Namely, in the first page of the Topica, 100A of the Becker edition, and as we know, the topics were the first treatise on logic that Aristotle wrote. Aristotle says, either we have phenomena or we have endoxa. If we have phenomena, we use apodoxis, demonstration, and we get, let's say, a truth. If we look into endoxa, we use the aristice, we use the aristical syllogism, and we get pistis. And pistis is persuasion and faith.
Thank you. Very nice. And it's just
It's the same question.
yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you. As you mentioned, Laudato Si, and in the context of this conversation, just ask a very practical question. That was such an influential treatise. That was such an influential way to steer global discussions in very critical ways. The Pope is one of the most influential people on this planet. By extension, the Pontifical Academy are one of the more influential academies on this planet as well. So could you enlighten us or just share with us a little bit about some of the practical steps that you see through religion and through these interactions with reason, with science, with religion that you see as important going forward? Maybe not so much specifically by the Pontifical Academy, but things that we can then help advance in our work as well.
Well, I think the Pope is also very concrete. It's a Jesuit, so it's concrete. And he put documents, but he speak, look, just the other week, he speak with a journalist in Herrera, in Spanish. Right? And he say, look, I was negationist of the climate, but when I was in the meeting in Brazil, Aparecida, all the Brazilian bishops speak about climate, Amazonia. So I start to interest in the subject. And after I see the things that say my scientist people, so I understand that I need to write a document about this. And he find, I don't remember, but before to the encyclica, the president of France, and the president of France say, people say that you are writing an encyclica about climate. Yes, said the Pope, I am right. Please write this before the meeting of Paris. And write this before and he do this just to follow this. And also he called by telephone to Obama. I don't know this by the newspaper, not the phone, but he called to Obama and the other president to say it. So it's very practical. So this is one thing. The other thing, he wants to have a new compact about education. And to follow more or less your idea, we need that the university have a dialogue and have a new idea of what could be the education today, a common idea of what could be education today. Of course, in this part, we need to put, and we try to do this with the congregation of education, but also the question of the verity of science. So this is very important because in a way, we have the media and the power of the money that use the media to say we don't have more the truth because this is the interest, economic interest. And in the other way, we have, for example, many Catholic universities that not have science. So science is nothing. So in some way, we don't believe in science because the media say that and the other way, because we don't have the information. So this is, we need dialogue. Each time put this question and dialogue with all the universities and to have a new compact about education in general. I don't know what other things. Of course, we need that the bishop follow the ideas of the Pope. So, because the structure of the church are this. And especially the Christian live in agreement with the gospel, because this is clear. In the gospel, especially the gospel of John, is very clear about the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Monsignor.
We have time.
We have time for one or two more interventions.
Thank you. As a social scientist, I'm a bit out of my element talking about theology and Aristotle and Plato. But one concern.
She's sociologist.
No, of course. But one concern I have is that we are asking a very high intellectual standard of people who maybe don't feel motivated to care about the truth. If we look at the general population, many people don't care to follow politics. Many people aren't as intellectual creatures as we make them into. They might not feel as if they have the responsibility to make a decision about the truth. So, the idea of utilitarianism is completely foreign. I worry, that we've underappreciated the role of motivation here. And it occurred to me as I was listening to your really interesting talk that faith is also part of this process, that faith can inspire and motivate us to seek truth. And so I wonder, at least in the social science conversation, I'd be interested to hear what others think. We don't often talk about faith as motivating this interest in politics, but it seems like it could be an interesting path.
I think that you as sociologists can demonstrate that the human being is not only matter. That is a very important question. I don't know. You say this clearly. That we need to. We have here a very interesting meeting organized by the former President Malimbo. What is truth for sociologists? What is truth for sociologists? More or less, this was. And in the end, he asked that the sociologists give some clear affirmation. What is the sense of the human person? What is person? What is the idea that we have the person is different to the animals? What is the reason? Really, sociologists don't have a clear, but in any way accepted that the human person is different to the animals. So you need to be more clear in this question. And I think it's not too much complicated to demonstrate that the human being has something different to the animals, but also of the point of view sociology. Aristotle say, I come back to my deformation. Aristotle say the human being is a political animal. Political animal, this is a sociological question. We are political. The other animals are not political, are in participation political. There are some chief, but not really a relation, not have cities. And this is not have the city that is the possibility to have, not have, especially not have the war, not have war. All the observation is not have war. And the other are voice, but not war, not have sentence. And this is a sociological observation. I think so.
Yes, Lee, please.
Continue. Thank you for your talk. I wanted to make a comment on something that I don't know if people understand. The relationship here is a subtle one. In my book, Post-Truth, I make the argument that science denial is a precursor for post-truth. But I also make the argument that one of the roots of post-truth is relativism and postmodernism, which
I see in
and
your
I find this very interesting because it seemed to me that you were saying the same sort of thing in the
for different point of
relationship, but it not because I see postmodernism and relativism as a danger to science. You're saying that they're also a danger to religion.
yeah. So for religion, they try to say that there are some universal principle that we call God. And this is from Aristotle. Clear speak about this, the other, yes, more or less, Heraclit. But the idea, the name of God to put to this reality was Aristotle, the metaphysics. So, if we don't have this, all is relative. So this is a very important question. In what sense the not acceptation of some column principle that Thomas Aquinas say, the truth by essence, the other truths can have foundation. If you remove this foundation, in the end, in the history, we arrive to post-truth. And you remove the ends, I don't know in English ends, Latin ends, entity, but entities have many significations. That is not the philosophical idea. We don't have the other things. We have nothing. So the panorama, the vision of the people today, in the moment of death, I come from nothing and go to nothing, nothing more. Yeah. So if we don't have some response to the great question, I say the Pope John Paul II in many documents speak about the great questions, the complicated question that each person needs to have. What are my origin? What are my end? You don't think in the truth, and you don't think in the being, and you don't think in the life. You are nothing and nothing and nothing. And if you are nothing, you are not truth. You are not good. You are not justice. You are only emotions, I'd say, or money, or live according with the passions. So this is in synthetic way. Of course, not immediately you understand this, but it's according to the life of some persons. If some person don't believe in the truth, don't believe in a thing, begin to live according to the passions. And in the end, Aristotle say a person to live in the passions, in the end, not have nothing. This is the truth.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Monsignor. Let me channel my inner populace here and make a necessary correction. Most people remain moved by religiosity. This is a very, the issues that we are reflecting upon now form part of a certain cultural formation that I don't believe extends to the vast majority of human beings today. I am a scholar of mass migration. I've studied migration for the last 30 plus years. The vast majority of immigrants and refugees in the United States have very authentic orientation towards a religious approach to human life. So Lucy, 5 million years ago, had the prototype of the foundations of religion and ritual. There is no human group known through the ethnographic record that doesn't have fundamental a religious orientation, a transcendental theory of human life. So it's important that we don't limit our vision to the walls within very elite institutions that are universities. And of course, the disciplines that are represented in this table all in their formative moment, religion became a fundamental point of scholarly inquiry. This is true in sociology, this is true in anthropology, this is true in psychology. So a note, Lucy, 5 million years ago, and today. This is part of human life.
No, I say the people to postulate the idea of truth. The majority of the people follow some sense the truth and the good. Of course, this is especially the simple people that not have some special culture of an interpretation of materialism I don't want to criticize the media, but the media and the films. But look, if you see the films, what is the message of the film, the majority of the film that we have today in the production? What is the message? We are nothing. We can do the thing that we want. We don't have, where is ethic? Where is it? Also, excuse me, also in the universities, you have a faculty of ethics. Aristotle put in his scholar, the ethic was the more important part of the politics. I want to know if our politics study ethic. Maybe you have faculty of ethics, I don't know. But in many universities, not have ethics. Any people speak about ethics. So, look, it's more, yes, the world continued to live because the majority of the people believe in this. I agree, but not the people to promote the mind think, the pensée unique, the people to organize reset. I am sure that this project is impossible to realize, impossible. But anyway, we need to know.
Thank you, Monsignor. I lived 10 years of my life in Silicon Valley and 10 years of my life in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. So as an anthropologist, I studied the rituals and
You should,
Jane.
should remember that.
Yeah, thank you, Monsignor.
Sorry.
Jane, please.
Yeah, I was interested in Pope Francis's dictatorship of money. And I was thinking about what Margie was saying about money in the US Congress and, you know, the problems that has caused and how Margie felt the answer was through the courts. But I'm wondering from your perspective and from the Pope's perspective, when he talked about the dictatorship of money, where did he actually see that going? Where did he see the answer about raising awareness about this dictatorship of money? What specifically did he mean?
You know, the Pope have the project to have the economy of Francis, no? Maybe this can answer better our president because he's an economist. But it's clear that the description to have the Pope is that today we have the dictatorship of the money. And it's clear if you, as say the Pope, to rascas, in the end, if you go, in the end it's money. The decision is made by money. So please speak you about what are concrete projects.
Sorry, what about? Because I was talking with him.
What are the concrete solution for the question of this dictatorship of the economy today? The economy of France, etc.
That is $1 trillion question. No, the point is that no, the diagnosis is very clear. Everybody knows about that. There are already 100 books talking about the overtaking of the economic realm over the political realm. The problem is how to get out of that. If you take chapter 5 of Fratelli Tutti, there is a passage where Pope Francis explicitly writes, politics should redeem its freedom from the economy. You can take a copy here. In other words, unless politics becomes independent, autonomous from the economy, there is no way to get out. We will accumulate problems after problem. Consider the endogenous increase of inequalities, destruction of the environment. Third, the problem that the democratic rule today has not the same meaning as it used to have in the past, etc. So the real point today is what is the process which should be started in order to get out of that. And on that, there are different options. Those who until recently believed in the possibility of recuperating neoliberalism, today have, there are only people illiterate from an economic point of view can sustain neoliberalism. Everybody knows of that. The point is that people, the opposite side is we should give more and more power to the government, which is, again, for instance, that is not my position. The problem, perhaps, the perspective is that we should move towards a trilateral model of social order, state, market, community. Because until now, we have been working within the bipolar state and market. If you were, so to speak, social democrats, you would give more emphasis to the state. If you were more liberal, you would give neoliberal to it. And it seems that both solutions are demanding. So the question is a community. By community, we mean a civil society organization, for instance. And in America, there is a big debate. And the point which many people are working on, how to conceive the relationship between state, market, and community. Because until now, community has been put aside, or better, as a servant to the government or to the market, according to the case. You know the expression philanthropo-capitalism, which has emerged in America in recent years. Because the big capitalists, they say, we take care through philanthropic action of the needs of the poor, blah, blah, blah. Take the case of Bill Gates. And other people say, but are we sure that in this way we defend a value such as democracy? Because Bill Gates is generous and gives a lot of money, but who controls what he or his friends are going to do? So this is and this academy, the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, is working from different angles and from different, let's say, perspectives to give a contribution to the solution of the problem. But I have reasons to believe that it will not take long before we get, because people are getting fed up. Both of the old, for instance, today, we speak about post-liberalism. Post-liberalism does not mean anti-liberalism, but what comes after the liberal order, which has become obsolete. And that is part of the game. This workshop that was initiated by Russell, he had the initial idea, goes exactly in the same direction. That is why what I said before, because you see, the economic discourse is 99% dominated by utilitarianism. And the tragedy is that most economists do not realize. And what said our chancellor, the real scandal is that the Catholic University keep on teaching utilitarians, even though they do not realize. That is unbelievable. I mean, I know quite a number of Catholic universities. In the world, there are 1,700 Catholic universities in the world. And they keep on, if you take the curricula, you will understand immediately. So unless we provide a modification and really believe into pluralistic, because I'm in favor of pluralism. I am not against utility per se, provided that you admit that you are utilitarian, so I can criticize you and you can criticize me. But never take for granted, because post-truth starts the very moment that people take for granted. And that is, but we will reach.
I want to add these things. There are many economists very enlightened, like our president, but also, for example, Jeffrey Sachs, for example,
Yes.
Joseph Stiglitz, for example, Arrow, that are members of the academy. So there are people to do this, but because it's the truth, it's more complicated.
And if you want a reading, which is not technical, published in the Journal of Economic Literature last November, by George Akerlof. George Akerlof is American Nobel Prize winner in economics. You know what is the title of his article? The Sins of Omission of Economic Science. When I read 3 times, I asked my wife, is it written like that? Then I congratulated him, because he didn't say the mistakes, but the sins of omission. Say, and he meant the omission of taking into consideration these type of problems. And one of the problems is about post-truth. And you know who is his wife? She is the Treasury Minister in the States now, Yellen. So, I mean, it's a famous couple. And he took the courage, and it's not technical. He said, I do not write, because he's also a mathematician, because I want my discourse to be understood by everybody. That is.